Hey guys, how's it going today? Hope you guys are doing really well. I wanted to make a quick video on kind of my running journey, I guess you could say. So going from zero to running marathons. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I just wanted to discuss my journey. Maybe it'll inspire you guys as well to do the same. Keep in mind, I'll get into this, but I was never a runner, nor do I have a runner's body. I'm quite tall and I'm actually quite heavy as well. I've had knee problems historically as well. So anyway, we'll get into it in the video, but essentially, yeah, just wanted to discuss my running journey and yeah, kind of what it looked like for me. So first bit here was, I guess, beginning to run. So this was 2 or 3 years ago, or about 2022 to 2023. Now, how this all came about is there was a corporate run at my work, and they actually offered to pay for my entry. Right now, I thought, what's the worst thing that can happen? Worst case, I'll walk it because some people do walk it. Otherwise, I could just run it and it's whatever. I also had some friends as well that were joining me, so that kind of persuaded me to join as well. Now, I'd never really run before, properly, or even like knew about what a good time was, or pretty much anything. I was starting from complete scratch, right? And I was actually quite unfit as well. So while I did have a little bit of muscle, I was quite, I guess, how do you say, my endurance was quite bad. I was quite heavy. I still am heavy, but I was a little bit heavier. And even walking up a hill for 5 or 10 seconds, I'd start huffing and puffing. Um, just because I really truly was unfit. I hadn't really done too much sports during high school. The only real kind of sports I did was gym, and even that was quite easy going and nothing too crazy. No cardio or anything like that. So yeah, very very new to running. When I did start to speak to people who got involved in the run, or who just ran in general, right? I did start to take it more seriously because I realized that there were a few moving parts. Even though the run was only 5 kilometers, maybe 5 point something. Um, it's for me, I'm just that sounded like a long run. I'd never even walked 5 kilometers. It's a long walk, you know. Obviously, you drive 5 kilometers, but running it sounded like a different kind of thing, right? Now, by once I started speaking to some people, I started, purchased some cheap running shoes. I purchased, a cheap running top from Big W or Kmart. Some shorts, some socks, nothing crazy. Just the basics to actually get me going. Because honestly, I thought I'd never look at running again, and just thought it'd be a one and done thing. Um, Now I completed the run. It did take a lot out of me, and I completed it in about 40 minutes, which isn't the best time ever for about 5 kilometers, but is what it is. It was the first time, and I ended up vomiting after quite badly. No one saw though, which was good, which definitely helped. But nonetheless, it wasn't a great feeling, and I stunk of vomit after, so not the best. I was a little bit embarrassed about how much it took out of me, to be honest with you. Even still to this day, a lot of people just run at ease and it seems very easy for them and it doesn't really take a lot out of them, even to run, sometimes a marathon. So to do 5Ks and everyone around me was totally fine, to not be okay, was a little bit embarrassing. So that kind of made me think this is my baseline for endurance and running, and it needed work. So that was pretty much it. Now, running the last year, we're in what, mid 2025 almost, but last year, 2024, this is when I started to kind of invest a little bit more into running. I started with, I did have an old treadmill. I still do, and I still do use it, but maybe using it once a week, running and jogging with some cheap gear, or the clothes I wore for that 5 kilometer run. Not too much, and this might go alongside some training. This is really the first type of cardio I'm doing. I did start to, begin to understand the importance once I started, going through my gear and all these kind of things, of different shoes, ones for, maybe more comfort, maybe they're more for racing, maybe they're kind of in between, the different kind of, how do you say it, like whether your foot indents or not, all these little things that kind of came into play. Nutrition, now I understand how important it is, but back in the day I used to not think too much about that. having enough carbs, energy gels, stretching, running posture, all these little things, I began to learn about, using ChatGPT or listening to other people online. I did start to experiment with different things and see what worked best for me. And that really kind of got me to exponentially increase my running game just through this, which we'll get into in a second. Like I just mentioned, watching various influencers, for example, Nick Bear, which he owns, what was it? Bear, I think it's Bear, sorry, Bear Performance, something like that. And then Matt Choi is another one. They're both from America. They both run. They're very different. Nick is quite bulky, whereas Matt is quite skinny. But yeah, essentially they each have little bits and pieces of golden nuggets that they like to share, and obviously taking that and learning from that is really key. Things like, for example, like what they're doing pre-runs, or what they're doing in terms of stretching or nutrition or anything like that is really sorry my using that as like a base, was really good for me because sometimes, you might see people around you and they're using, you know, Vaporfly Maxes, for example, or Super Blasts. And then you might watch one of their videos and they say, hey, it's maybe not the best, maybe it's better for this type of runner. And then you're like, okay, cool. I'm a little bit more educated on this now. Obviously, you do your own research as well. But, just by looking at a lot of runners you see at run clubs or even at races, you might think that, the Alpha Fly or the Super Blast or the, Endorphin Pro 4 is the only running shoe ever. But there's lots of different shoes for lots of different things, also type of gels, things that people are intaking before a run, after a run, all these things. It's very, very like it very, very much depends on the person, right? So just copying what others are doing is not always the best thing to do. Now, what I did to kind of close the loop on this was I actually signed up for the 2024 Sydney Marathon while I was overseas. And then I kind of began to train semi regularly. Now, my time wasn't fantastic for the Sydney Marathon. It was over 4 hours, which now I could probably do, around about or a little bit under that 4 hour mark. But it was quite a bit over. It was actually 5 hours, so it wasn't great. But there was lots of things that went wrong. I, I went through it and I got it done, which was a really, really great achievement. I was put out for maybe, I don't know, like 2 weeks or something, just through blisters and just muscle soreness, etc. But awesome experience. Definitely recommend. If I could do it again, I definitely will in the future. But unfortunately, I won't be doing it this year. So now onto this year and moving forward. So I do go through ebbs and flows, but most weeks I'm running. I appreciate cardio more nowadays. So even just walking around the city, for example, getting my steps up on my Apple Watch is a really important thing for me personally. I'm getting those 10,000 steps a day. Now, only recently I did complete the Hoka Sydney Half Marathon, and I did that in about 2 hours. And signed up for others, I think Harbour 10 and City to Surf later on this year. But who's to say I won't do more? These aren't marathons, but they are shorter races, 10 to 20 kilometer range, which, is a good enough range for me. Won't kill you, but you kind of get used to prepping for these kind of events, and you can try because there's obviously lots of volume compared to just doing one big race. You can trial and test different things each time, and it works out really well. Spending a little bit more money on dialing in on my particulars, the kind of things that work really well for me. Buying those $200 or $300 pair of shoes, or maybe a mix of comfort and racing day shoes, so you can kind of have the best of both worlds. Understanding which gels make me feel not great, which ones don't affect me, or which ones work really well. These are all important. Understanding carb loading, kind of how you know whether you're able to have a few beers before a race, pasta, maybe it's a few days before, but kind of timing all these things when you get up in the morning. Does peanut butter sit well with you? Does having bread sit well with you, etc. All these things are really important, and also training, doing your splits, training on treadmill versus training running on the road. Um, just kind of getting really niching down, really understanding the nuances between these things for my situation. So I wouldn't be able to advise on someone else. You need to kind of understand that yourself. So yeah. And look, as of right now, I'm doing about 27 minutes per 5K, about 57 minutes per 10K, and about 2 hours for a half marathon. My goal for next year is doing about 5 minutes per kilometer, maybe 6 minutes per kilometer for the next marathon, TBC. Definitely realistic, definitely possible. I am, again, I don't have a runner's body. I'm quite heavy. I'm a little bit over 100 kilos. And I'm like 6'5", 6'6". So I'm quite bulky, quite heavy. I do have long legs, true. But yeah, um, yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I do enjoy running. I'm going to continue progressing it. It's probably my preferred form of cardio right now. Look, will we ever do an Ironman? Honestly, sounds pretty interesting. Maybe I will. I hope I do. But in the meantime, yeah, really kind of tailoring that running, um, getting my pace up, getting my heart rate down. All these little things are going to be really important for me going into 2026 and onwards. So, yeah, hopefully you guys really enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, make sure to let me know down below. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.